You are speaking English with a British accent. I'm speaking English with a Southern accent. We both lost. Nobody won. Shut up.
Oh, so fabulous.
Hi guys, welcome back to the channel once again. It's your girl Dumebi. If this is your first time coming across my channel, you're welcome. I do hope you decide to subscribe, and if you are a returning subscriber, you guys know that I love you. It's so good to have you here. Welcome back. So this video, as usual, is strictly for educational purposes. Please do not go searching out anybody that I talk about in this video. Don't send them any form of hate comment, threat, or violence. This channel does not support any of that. So I came across this very interesting video, and I actually think it's a podcast. It's another one of those videos, Diaspora Wars, and I like to address these videos because I don't want people to just think that every African thinks like this, okay? So let me go right ahead and play the video.
They got white names, you know what I mean? Like, it'll be like something Thompson, you know what I mean? Yeah. You'll never see that in an African person. It'll be like Pascal, it'll be Hamada Gogo, it'll be, you know what I mean? Yeah, Kevin, da-da-da. Yeah. They're all, I don't know, like white people.
So something Williams.
Yeah, so.
Nigga said they're odd. They're not odd.
So, when I watched that video, I'm like, the ignorance they smell, like mumu they smell. You sound so ignorant, and you sound like someone who is even proud of his ignorance. That was the vibe I was getting from that video. So he's talking about how African Americans bear white last names, and that means they are owned by white people. Like, how can you see? Before I go off, let me just play people's speeches and responses to that video.
They got white names, you know what I mean? Like, it'll be like something Thompson, you know what I mean?
You know what's funny about this is that majority of Africans in Africa will either have an English name or an Arabic name. I went to a school that had close to 500 people altogether, and me and my younger sister were the only ones that I was aware of that had indigenous names, Sukuma names. Self-hate and having an identity crisis is such a huge pandemic in Africa that you as an African should not be out here talking about African Americans, people that you don't even understand or know about. And the last thing is, if you aren't properly knowledgeable on the reasons why African Americans live the way they do today, then you just shouldn't talk about it. African Americans have gone through 500 years of oppression. They've managed to free themselves, build up their communities, make their own cultures that you also participate in. For you to go out of your way and have a caption like that, it's just a slap in the face to African Americans.
Something Williams.
Yeah, so.
I think I can speak for all the black diaspora when I just say, shut up. For those Africans who live in European nations, you are not better than any other black person. Literally. They put some of y'all in concentration camps. They deport y'all. They kill y'all just as they do anywhere else, right? The relationship between those of the diaspora and those in Africa, or ones who migrated to Europe, is really interesting to me. Before we get into that, let's talk about how majority of the countries do not have their local language as their main language. Guess what? It's either French, Portuguese, Spanish, English. No European has really given 2 cents or about y'all. They took your country, took your people, took your resources, and literally told you, that's it. You have to speak my language now. And y'all do it effortlessly. The thing about African Americans, this is not technically our land, and we know that. Y'all have, honestly, roughly about 24 countries. Not all of these are listed here, but y'all have 24 countries that speak English, and that's their main language. What are y'all excuse for y'all not being able to have control over your continent? Like, all respect and love to those who are African and who aren't judging us and aren't nitpicking just so that the white man can see you. They see you and they still don't care about you. You're not getting any cookies, any points, baby. Some Africans definitely have to find a hobby, like getting your continent back, like getting your country in order, like not being a third world country. A lot of us were enslaved. What's your excuse? And you cannot bring up Ethiopia or any other country. I think it's Liberia or Libya, one or the other. Y'all can't bring those 2 countries up because the majority of people talking ish are the ones that got conquered.
You know what I mean?
The diaspora war strike again. Here we have this African Australian man saying that African Americans have white last names. It's almost like they're owned by white people. You don't say, Mr. African Australian man. I wonder why it is that African Americans would have white last names like they were owned by white people. Why is that? Why do you think that is? You got some nerve too, sitting over there sounding like Crocodile Dundee and shit. But hey, at least you know your last name.
Something Thompson, you know what I mean?
Damn, son. You speak English just like we do, bro. You got a British accent, we got an American accent. It's kind of like the pot calling the kettle black, bro. Don't let that saying go over your head for the ones that don't understand that shit.
Something Thompson, you know what I mean?
I'm convinced of two things. Number one, that TikTok likes to push out negative conversations when it comes to black people, African descent, or people from the continent of Africa. And number two, I'm convinced that we eat that shit right up. Because look at the comments, look at the amount of views that this person has compared to a video that I posted yesterday of me learning traditional dances from my own African roots. Why is my video not viral? But his video is doing numbers. You see it all the time. Videos like this get so much engagement. And yeah, I do think that TikTok does push this narrative out, but I also think it's up to us to not like eat that up. It's like as if we would rather have these negative conversations rather than watch positive conversations surrounding Africanness. I don't know. What's your thoughts?
Something Thompson, you know what I mean?
Yes, a lot of black Americans do have European surnames. But you know what I find funny is that the minute that many of you get to go abroad, many of you go to London, some of you come here to the US, the first thing you do when you want to assimilate into the Western culture is you shorten your ethnic name. Now you're going by Fumi, Chike, Femi, oh, just call me Nia, and that's okay. Now, if you don't understand why black Americans have European surnames, then you need to get educated. Do better, do better, do better. Because at your big age, you should not be on Beyonce's internet with the foolery.
Something Thompson, you know what I mean?
Every time this conversation comes up, it's just a reminder of the fact that people don't spend a ton of time cultivating topics for their podcasts. But that aside, I will never be able to understand why, one, we routinely have this conversation, but two, why we have this conversation void of context. Because you know, I know, we know why there are so many black Americans with European or white sounding last names. We all know why. And the question that I want to ask you is, what is funny about slavery? Because we posit this conversation as though it's something that is like funny, right? The butt of the joke being black American people not knowing where they come from and having been owned. Let's all take a moment to remember the fact that many of the people who engage in these conversations hail from countries that have been and technically still are colonized by European countries. So all of us as a collective have suffered under the foot of white supremacy, and yet we sit here and point fingers at people as though they are an other and as though they're different. And what I want to also note is you might not have a European sounding last name, but a lot of y'all have European first names. Because the trend in practice is to maybe have a cultural or traditional name that you use amongst your family, close friends, relatives, and then a Western name that you use to function in the rest of the world. Why is that? I think we all know why. We all know why, because it is likely easier to have a Western sounding name in a society and realm that is heavily influenced by white supremacy. But yet, you know, here we are poking fun at black American people because, oh, your last name is Thompson, instead of insert traditional sounding name from region, country, place of origin, tribe, whatever, in Africa. I need us to all be serious, because I would bet money that you indulge in many of the cultural practices of the very community that you're taking the time to poke fun at and ridicule. The earring and the streetwear alone say it all. And I want to add that I say this as someone who is Black American and Ghanaian. My dad immigrated here from Ghana, and my mom descends from enslaved people. And I'll just note that my dad and all of his siblings have British names. Their last name is traditional, but their first names are not.
You never see that in an African person. It'll be like.
So I'm not someone who likes to participate in the diaspora wars. I'm good on that. But I do find it troubling to see African people making fun of African Americans for having gone through enslavement. You're right. Many of us do have typically, historically, white surnames, first names, so on and so forth. But that's because our identities were erased for hundreds of years. Really funny. But you're wrong about the piece where you said that that doesn't happen in Africa, because colonization has made it so that many people throughout Africa have Hebrew names, Arabic names, Germanic names, so on and so forth. What are you talking about?
Something that will never fail to confuse me is why we even have diaspora wars. Like, boom. We live on this earth. We were all colonized. All of us. All of us. A lot of us, even y'all, can't even go back home because our countries are so bad. The idea that we other ourselves as Black people is just so insane to me. But then also, I will say, it's very interesting that people who are in touch with their culture, people who know their culture, like to shit on Black Americans for their lack of culture, as if they could control that. Like, let's use our brains here. We all know the story. Black people stolen from Africa, taken to America. But here's the part y'all seem to forget. They were whipped and told not to practice their African traditions. They were told to get rid of their African names. Right? Let's not forget that, right? You know what's so amazing about Black Americans, though? They got everything stripped away from them, right? And then they created their own culture. And think about Black American culture. Everybody in the world wants to be a Black American. And don't even lie, we hear y'all with the UK drill rap. Y'all want to be American so bad. Black American culture has influenced the entire world. And especially music. Like, if we're talking about music, Black Americans are the pioneers. Rock, jazz, R&B, there's just so much house music. Like, let's not get into it. So I would really appreciate if Black people around the world would stop shitting on Black Americans and stop shitting on them for things that they cannot control. I just think it's very redundant. Like, we could talk about how Black people have white names and how they don't even know where they come from and they didn't even speak another language. But like, what does that do for us? Like, actually, our rights are being stripped away from us as we speak, and y'all are over here concerned about what last name a Black person has. Also, it be the bitches from the UK and Australia talking in them dumbass accents, talking about, y'all are stuck in the UK and Australia eating nasty ass food, especially you bitches in the UK. Y'all are stuck eating white people goulash. Okay, at least we got good food over here, okay?
Something Thompson, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Please go back and watch that video for full context. But I'll also want to talk about a process called seasoning. Now, this was a process that took place during the transatlantic slave trade, in which enslavers had to prepare newly captured, newly enslaved Africans for the climate, the environment of the Americas, both the physical climate, environment, as well as the social climate and environment. And this included stripping newly captured, newly enslaved Africans of their names, their identity, their culture, their heritage. They were separated from their families because in the minds of these enslavers, If they did this to these newly captured, newly enslaved Africans, it would lessen the chances of them rebelling, and it would make them more obedient and submissive to them as slaves. And also, we also have to keep in mind that as the generations grew and more enslaved Africans were shipped to the Americas, that many of them began to take on the names of their owners. So this is where you're going to get the last name Thompson, Greer, and things like that. So if you're not well versed in African American history, Black history, please don't do no podcast spouting out all these lies, this nonsense. Educate yourself and be better.
Thompson, you know what I mean?
Question. Why they got white names? Why they got white names? Let's use our critical thinking skills. Matter of fact, why are you talking in English right now? Ask yourself, why am I, as a Black African, speaking in English? Ask yourself that right now. Because we're Jimmy Pa. You're very foolish. Very foolish. Because I'm so over all this ignorance, especially coming from like Black Africans and Caribbeans and Black South Africans. Like, it's really crazy. It's even crazy when it comes to them, because I'm like, y'all just got off different boats. Like, what are we really doing? But no, seriously, like, this gotta stop. Like, this ignorance is ridiculous. If you go to the continent right now, you're gonna see a lot of Black Africans with Arabic last name, Portuguese last name, Spanish last name, French, English. Like, I knew a lot of Wilsons, a lot of Smiths, a lot of Williams in Ghana, and Yafanti, and Yanashanti. What? Yeah, y'all need to stop, because this is disgusting. Stop.
I know everybody's seen that video, so I'm not telling people to go back to watch it for context. One of the things that I just see that's kind of weird is when I went back and watched like a couple of more videos of that podcast, what I noticed was by everybody else's accent, they ain't been here past 8 years. Now, you obviously been here longer than them, so it's supposed to be someone like you to educate the others on bullshit like this. And them being owned, bruh, my bloodline started in Nigeria and never left Nigeria. I have Portuguese last name. So you consider me being owned too? Pascal. Pascal is not an African indigenous name. So the first reference you gave, you failed with it. These people being hands-on fighting, guns for guns, community for community, they've been fighting this white supremacy, and look at where the advancement, where they at right now. We not even close in the motherland. NATO still controls our water. The US controls our water and the imports of whatever comes in our countries. Ghana got a military base in their country. They gave Bill Gates the directives to go to Nigeria and partner with our healthcare. White supremacists through sponsoring genocidal civil shit in Sudan and other parts of Africa. So if there's anybody that's being owned, bruh, it's not them. Let's just be factual, bruh. It's not them. A little history of how civil rights gave all the demographics of immigrants coming to this country. It was them. Yeah, it was them, not us. So you saying they're owned when I know for sure some of your family members got English European names. Your family members are owned too? A little research, bruh. Less than 10 minutes of research gonna tell you how shit is the way it is. Like all this semantics that we doing, bruh. Nah, that's not it, bro. That's not it at all. You wrong for that.
As expected, you could see a lot of the African Americans were disappointed and upset, because I think it hits different when it's your own people, when it's your skin folk. But of course, we know not all skin folk are kin folk. But in his case, I think it's just ignorance. So how can you, a full-grown man, that's a full-grown man. He's not a baby, okay? A full-grown man not know the history of African people and slavery and colonization? How can you not know? And you're making jokes, very insensitive jokes about your people. And it's funny, like he's not even the only one laughing. Like they were all kicking with him. And like, I don't get the joke. What is funny? You know, it's so embarrassing. as an African to hear a fellow African talk like that. And that's not even an African in Africa. So that is somebody that is not even on the continent. Like, so you cannot say you've been shielded from the fact that there are black people everywhere. You cannot say you're ignorant or there's lack of exposure now. That's not an excuse you can use. So I don't know why you choose to be ignorant, or maybe you know the truth, you know exactly the history and all of that, but you just choose to make it a joke, of which if you're like, it wasn't funny. It wasn't funny. It's sad how some of us are trying to bridge the gap between the African diaspora. We're trying to achieve Pan-Africanism, and you on the other end, the disgrace of the community, the shameless one of the community, you are there making senseless jokes. Have you forgotten that over here we're speaking English? We're actually answering English first names. My name is Leah. That's definitely not an African name. As a matter of fact, my parents did not give us English names. Leah is a name that I chose for my confirmation. I'm Catholic, so we do confirmation where you get to choose a name. So my siblings and I got to choose our English names as regards to the way it is done in the Catholic Church for confirmation. But my parents did not give us English names intentionally because they had so much pride in our names. But for you to see an African American that had no choice in the matter and decide to criticize them and make it a joke, at the end of the day, you're the one who's looking foolish. You're the one who's looking stupid, I'm sorry to say. I want our people to do better. I want this diaspora wars to stop. And I'm so sure that in the comment section, I will still see someone say, we always knew Africans don't like us. There's one African that I met that hates me, that did this to me and did that to me. And it disappoints me to see all the generalizations, because you cannot see the platform that I have and the things that I say and how much I and some other people who do what I do, because I'm not the only one, how much we try to bridge the gap, and still come in the comment section and generalize that all Africans are this way, all Africans are that way, and you're saying negative things. It's kind of like I'm pouring water on a stone. Like, what's the essence of trying to bridge the gap if we are still going to just believe these stereotypes about each other? What's the point? Like, we're supposed to have a discussion. We're supposed to be getting rid of our old ways of thinking and understanding each other better. Forget those generalizations and negative stereotypes that we have been taught by white supremacy and all these other Western people. Now we have a chance to talk one-on-one. I'm not saying every African has a Pan-African mind, but I'm also sure not every other black person in the diaspora also has a Pan-African mind. There will be those of us that believe in Pan-Africanism and supporting each other, that we are one, we got to help each other, we have to come together. And there will also be some of us that don't believe in it. You can't make people believe what they don't believe. But if you're going to be on this platform, that is what I talk about. I talk about Pan-Africanism, I talk about being pro-black, I speak about issues that affect black people in different parts of the world. So it's counterproductive, and it actually hurts me when I see people in the comment section still come and say, oh, Africans never liked us, Africans are this and that, and well, whatever. I think someone who says things like that, you're really no different from this African brother in this video that is saying this. Really. Oh, okay, I went off on a tangent. I'm so sorry. I'm back. You guys, please let me know what you think in the comment section. I'm tired of the diaspora wars, honestly, but I will keep addressing them until there's a change. I believe I'm doing my own little bit, and I want you guys to do yours as well if you believe like we can bridge that gap. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.